All right, welcome to the Weaving Beautiful Lives, a tribute to 4 inspirational women. We are so happy to join you in celebrating the lives of Doctors Carletta Chief, Diana Liverman, Sally Marston, and Dean Emerita Tony Massaro. Thank you. During their tenure here, these 4 amazing women have provided the warp and weft around which many other lives have grown and blossomed, connecting university and community, students and faculty, as symbolized by the Community Weaving Project you saw as you entered if you came in from the north, creating a beautiful tapestry that connects us to one another. My name is Mary Greer. I'm a proud alumni of the College of Law, and I'm here to MC this program in my role as chair of the Donor Advised Fund Board for the Howry program here at the U of A. And I'm happy to see that we're right next to the Emil W. Howry Anthropology Building. I think that's fitting. Each of the honorees, as it so happens, played a very significant role in the founding or early days of the Howry program, either by mounting and carrying out successfully one of our seminal projects, or in the case of Dr. Liverman and Dean Massaro, in helping us to conceive and create the program in its early stages. And so that's one of the reasons that I'm emceeing, in case you were wondering, not being a university dignitary. Now, normally these presentations begin by acknowledging the dignitaries in the audience, but there are so many of you, and each of you, in fact, is a dignitary. You were each invited because of your special connection to the honorees. So what we're going to do instead is acknowledge all of you. And what I'd like you to do is give everybody here a hand for your connection to these 4 amazing women. Thank you for being here and celebrating with us. We'd like to start by recognizing the original people who resided on the land where we gather today. We respectfully acknowledge the University of Arizona is on the land and territories of Indigenous peoples. Today, Arizona is home to 22 federally recognized tribes, with Tucson being home to the O'odham and the Yaqui. Committed to diversity and inclusion, the university strives to build sustainable relationships with sovereign Native nations and Indigenous communities through education offerings, partnerships, and community service. The women we honor today have honored us through their lives and have committed to the sustainable relationships in the statement I just read. This event was conceived as telling the stories of their lives, the strong and brilliant women who not only have achieved great things in their own right, but took the time to help and mentor others. Although we all know, well, I think most of us know, that women have a little bit more of a burden when it comes to achieving greatness in their own right. We know that these women have listened to many before them and listened to those who are just starting their main life's work. They've shared and supported and cried and laughed with us all. We will hear some of those stories today. To our guests, as you listen, you may also reflect on how each of these women have impacted your lives and what gifts they have given you in turn and what you might pass on. To our speakers, we appreciate your roles in this tapestry, for you have each been selected by the honorees to stand here today. And to our honorees, we hope you will feel that you have come home to relax in the warmth and joy of this celebration. As you entered the Women's Plaza of Honor, if you came in from the north, you were invited to leave a tribute to our honorees by weaving a message into what will become a larger piece of art. So what we have are these little CDs that have the opportunity for you to weave a design into them and write on the back a personal message to the honoree of your choice, or to all honorees. And these CDs will be incorporated into a community piece of art that will become part of a piece of art that will be permanently installed at ENR2. So we hope, if you haven't already created a CD, that you will do so before you leave. There'll be plenty of time for you to do that. Aside from the tapestry created today, you can, if you don't want to do a weaving, although it's very therapeutic, it's kind of fun, it doesn't require any special talent. You can just leave a message on a disc and someone else will incorporate your message into the art piece if you don't want to do that. Now, as our program shows, we will hear first-generational stories about our honorees. Each one of the people about to share here were specially selected by the honorees, who have described them as dear friends, colleagues, mentors, and mentees. The order of speaking will be Moses Thompson, Margaret Wilder, Nikki Tooley, and Suzanne Dovey. I welcome Moses to the podium.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Moses Thompson. I'm the director of the UA Community and School Garden Program, and I'm here today to say a few words about my friend and mentor, Sally Marston. And I'd like to start with a story. Back in the fall of 2012, the Tucson Unified School District Governing Board voted to close Monzo Elementary School in the Barrio Hollywood neighborhood of Tucson. I had been working at Monzo for 6 years and had come to realize that public schools like Monzo and neighborhoods like Barrio Hollywood were more than just school buildings. Public schools are community centers. Public schools provide kids in the neighborhoods with food, healthcare services, mental health care services. Monzo had been in that neighborhood since 1939, and it in many ways served as connective tissue in that neighborhood. We couldn't let the district close it. We had begun community organizing, but we knew it would take more than parent emails to the governing board to save the school. In an act of desperation, I cold called Sally Marston, who I'd heard was working in the arena of school gardens. My friend, Alex Arispe, was house sitting for Diana Liverman, who I hadn't met yet, and her dog Carson, who I had met. Alex had Sally's number as an emergency contact. It was the most inappropriate phone call ever. But within weeks, Sally had high-level leadership from UA touring Monzo and its gardens, and she had letters drafted to district and city leadership. And by December that year, Monzo was pulled off the closure list. Monzo and its gardens were saved, and 10 years later, here we sit today with a national model school garden program, leveraging the power of university student engagement to provide upwards of 10,000 hours of school garden enrichment per school year in local underfunded public schools. Sally is a brilliant teacher and scholar, and she's subversive in the best way. But to me, Sally's superpower isn't her brilliance as an academic, it's her ability to make people believe in themselves what they otherwise would be afraid to believe on their own. That shift in mindset starts dominoes falling, and Sally's willingness to push open doors within institutions brings vision into action. I and the program that I'm privileged to work with were brought here today on the shoulders of Sally Marston, and I'm forever grateful.
All right, next to speak about Diana Liverman, we have Margaret Wilder.
Thank you. All right. Diana Liverman, connection, community, friend, gathering in, taking under wing, scholar, activist, mentor, and dog lover. Diana Liverman is a geographer in her very essence. Born in Ghana, where her parents worked for the UK government, Diana has also lived in England, Canada, Mexico, and of course, the United States. Since childhood, she was fascinated with places and cultures. As an 11-year-old schoolgirl, she won second place in a competition to name countries and animals at a London children's exhibition. The co-founder of the World Wildlife Fund presented her with awards, including a stuffed panda. Since this impressive start, she has traveled broadly and made friends all over the world among geographers and others. One of those good friends is Sally Marston, also being honored today. Diana and Sally were roommates in 1982 during a fellowship term of Diana's in Boulder and have remained the closest of friends. And Sally was instrumental in attracting Diana to Arizona. Diana has twice been invited to counsel the Dalai Lama and advised President Bill Clinton and Vice President Al Gore on the pressing need for global climate action and leadership, and also more recently provided congressional testimony. Diana was elected into the U.S. National Academy of Sciences and the American Association for the Advancement of Science, both within the same week in 2020. I have heard that she actually coined the term human dimensions of climate change, and she has made unparalleled contributions to that field. As an IPCC lead author through 128 articles and book chapters and 4 edited books, as an Earth Commissioner for Future Earth and a professor in the classroom, Diana's research and teaching has blazed a trail making the case for paying keen attention to climate vulnerability and the need for societies to adapt in a globally equitable manner. Diana has been an institutional leader of the UA's Center for Latin American Studies. Oxford University's Environmental Change Institute, was one of the founding co-directors of Arizona's Institute of the Environment, now known as ARES, or AIRES, as I like to pronounce it, and served terms as Dean of the College of Social and Behavioral Sciences and as Director of the School of Geography, Development, and Environment. Diana has elevated the visibility of women climate scientists through her own persona and expertise, through her scholarship on women in climate science, and through her mentorship of almost 50 women graduate students, 20 of whom were PhDs. I know Lydia Brunig, another graduate student of Diana's, is here today in from Switzerland. And in preparing for this talk, I was thrilled to find out that I was Diana's first PhD advisee at the University of Arizona. But beyond her intellectual contributions and leadership, Diana is first and foremost an amazing colleague, mentor, and friend who cares deeply about her junior colleagues and her students. She brings them into her life and even offers food and shelter under her roof. Once you belong to Diana, she will never let you go. She was the first person to visit me when I had my second baby. She organizes dinners of all her former advisees at every annual geography meeting. So we form a connected community across the 20-30 year span of her career. She hosts creative parties, such as the one when the South American Animal Exhibit opened at Reed Park Zoo, and Diana hosted a Latin American Studies Fiesta there, complete with costumes for Halloween. For a person of her prominence, Diana nevertheless invests so much time and energy into her friends. She returned to Arizona from Oxford, and who does that really, right? Just saying, love Arizona. She returned here from Oxford in part due to her strong ties of friendship and connections that she feels here and to the desert Southwest. Although she is as likely as not to be in an important international scientific meeting on Zoom on any given weekday, she will drop everything to offer her advisees advice about a job search or comfort a colleague about an illness in their family. And if Diana really, really likes you, she may let you dog sit her beautiful Australian Shepherd, Leo. Diana, I am honored to be here today and honored to be part of the wide and wonderful Diana Liverman network of students, colleagues, and friends reverberating out from Tucson to places around the world. You have immeasurably impacted my life and helped shape my career, as you have countless others. And you are a significant scientific and intellectual leader and role model of special importance to women. Congratulations on your induction into the Women's Plaza of Honor.
And now to speak about Dr. Carlotta Chief, we'll hear from Nikki Tooley.
Carlotta A digin the neebe away nile. Carlotta is a child of the holy people. She embodies the teachings of our ancestors. She has created a strong legacy since her feet has touched Mother Earth. Born in Black Mesa, Arizona on the Navajo Nation, we call our traditional homeland Dinétah, which is the traditional name of where we come from, as Diné, meaning the people. She asked me to speak today as we share similar lived experiences. Not only that, but being driven by the love and passion that we have for the love and land of where we come from. Knowing what I know and knowing what I have lived, I would like to share with you that I would like to add the term superhero to how I would describe her. Let me explain why. I will now state the fact that is often used to describe her, and that is she comes from a home where she lived with her family growing up with no electricity and running water. Think back to your time this morning when you woke up. If you were to take out of the equation that you had no access to electricity nor running water, how would your morning look like? How would your day look like? Even how would your life look like? Take a moment to reflect on that. So far, the terms no electricity and no running water are just words. Let me describe further what this means for a young Diné student on the reservation. This speaks to the resiliency of that student being the young Dr. Chief. It's quite befitting that she has now become the director of Ayers and Howry Indigenous Resilience Center. A student with no electricity and running water on the Navajo Nation means that you do your homework by a kerosene lamp. You are up way long before the sun rises in order to catch your bus. Through rain, snow, or even sunshine in the muddy roads, you are expected to catch that bus so you can get to school. This often means that you also come from a household that is bilingual, meaning you speak Navajo, Diné in the house, but then when you get to school, you're expected to speak in English. Coming from a rural area, that also means that you wake up long before the sun rises so you take care of your animals, to water them and to take them out to graze. As Navajo, as being a Diné person, we are often encouraged to start our day with prayers, greeting that sunlight to offer our gratitude and also to offer our wishes for the day. That all happening long before sunrise, you now are expected to arrive at school to be ready to learn. That's just to give you the background of the young Dr. Chief. However, I'd like to fast forward to the year 2000, when Dr. Chief was crowned Miss Navajo Nation, and was the first time that I actually got to lay my eyes upon her. She was elected and chosen to be the ambassador of one of the largest Native American tribes through this title as Miss Navajo. Essentially, what that means is you are a Navajo superstar. As a young girl, I watched from the rodeo grounds on our tribal fairgrounds. Being only one of the hundreds in that crowd, I can still remember the excitement and the energy that spread throughout the crowd, seeing somebody from Western Agency crowned. In her biography, it was stated that she was an environmental engineer, a water scientist. I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I knew it was something special. She went to Stanford, and that was something that was amazing. But in itself, somebody that went to university for higher education was something that was awe-striking to me. Fast forward again to the year 2015, when the Gold King mine spill happened. Again, I was afforded the opportunity to watch the work of Dr. Chief and many others. The water being impacted by the Gold King mine spill had a big impact on the Navajo Nation, being that the water is a large part of the Diné lifestyle. Only one of the few surface water areas destroyed for a time left much heartache and confusion amongst the people. Again, many, including Dr. Chief, rolled up their sleeves and went to work to share the information of safety information to those affected people, and also to inform in federal agencies of the impact of the spills on Indigenous communities. Again, I watched in awe as I watched her and many others take part in this work, not knowing that one day she would become one of my PhD advisors here at the University of Arizona. Again, fast forward to the year 2021, when she received the university's Distinguished Outreach Faculty Award. I had the opportunity to work on this application for her, and throughout reading the numerous pages of her CV and reading through the countless letters that came through in support of this recognition for her, clearly I saw that she was a perfect match for this award. The description of this award goes as follows. The recipient must demonstrate an outstanding commitment of outreach to the community for the common good of the state and of the nation. And it is the highest honor and award to be given in this category at the University of Arizona. I'd like to mention here that she took this beyond to a new height, as not only does she work on behalf of making this common good for state and the nation, but she took this to a new height working with many Indigenous communities, meaning that she worked with several sovereign nations. In these few remarks in these minutes I have shared with you, I did not even mention a fraction of what she has done in the awards, accomplishments, and projects she has been a part of. In fact, it is not in her nature to tell people all that she has done. And I believe if it was up to her today, she would make this recognition a team and collective effort. However, Dr. Chief, today we recognize you. You are one of a kind, and I am honored to call you a sister, a mentor, a leader, and a superstar. Because of you, I have learned the sky is not the limit. Thank you for inspiring the countless others who have come before us and those who are coming after us. Because of the person you are, I believe the world is a greater place.
I should have warned you to get out your Kleenex for this presentation. And finally, Suzanne Dovey will speak about Tony Massaro.
These are hard acts to follow. Tony Massaro, humble, fair-minded, resilient, generous role model. Humble. Let me say first off that Tony would hate me standing up here singing her praises. Unlike many academics, and I would venture lawyers, Tony is not ego-driven. She's fueled by a sense of service. Singing the praises of Tony goes against her personal philosophy of not putting herself front and center, preferring to help others get to where they want to go. One of Tony's gifts is her ability to help others flourish. Whether it's her students in her constitutional law classes, her faculty as dean, or the Navajo in her work with Howery. Tony has created a beautiful life that needs to be celebrated, and I'm going to brag about my treasured friend. Fair-minded. Tony's signature catchphrase as a professor is on the one hand and on the other hand. That even-handedness, which reflects what I think of her as her noble, golden-hearted core, does not prevent her from being outraged by the callous disregard and cruelty of the world. Rather, her fair-mindedness supports her determination to pursue justice fiercely, whether it's protecting First Amendment rights, finding the rational basis for gay marriage, or trying to get clean water to the Navajo. Tony's on the one hand and on the other hand is a tool for finding solutions to urgent problems. She doesn't want us to wring our hands and discuss the worries of the world. Tony wants to make the world more just. And this leads to the third adjective, resilient. Tony is a resilient and strong woman. In her office, she has a framed photo that says, "Now that the barn has burned down, I can see the moon." Tony's strength in seeing and creating pathways to set people on is her strength. As a breast cancer survivor, she knows what's important about life and what's worth sacrificing for. And Tony works tirelessly on the behalf of others. She answers emails at 3 a.m. She agrees to meet in person when students express the need to be face-to-face during the pre-vaccination pandemic. She uses her brilliant problem-solving mind, her ability to, quote, think in paragraphs, and the administrative skills she gained from 10 years as dean of the law school to make things happen. Tony does not give up in the face of obstacles. For instance, when the interpreter for a deaf student in her constitutional law class didn't show up, Tony simply proceeded to sign the whole class using the ASL skills she learned as an undergraduate. Tony's determination has led her to be a zealous advocate in what I think of as like the culmination of her career as the executive director of the Howery program. Okay, fourth adjective, generous. Tony is generous in so many ways. For instance, Tony donates all of her Howery director's salary to JAC, a program that endows summer grants for students to take unpaid internships. When the UA pay cuts were announced due to COVID, Tony sent her staff a personal check to cover their lost wages. Her generosity, though, isn't limited to her pocketbook. Tony is generous in the way she engages in conversations. She asks meaningful, probing questions. In fact, my favorite Tony question was to Noam Chomsky, which is if you had a magic key to have access to any government document, what would it be? His answer was the Cuban Missile Crisis files. But Tony has an interesting way of looking at the world. And she gains that because she's such a generous listener. She listens hard to what people want to do. And Tony figures out ways to open doors for and support others financially, institutionally, and via her extensive social network. But Tony is generous with her warmth and compassion. Tony sees and feels acutely other people's suffering, and her kindness can repair the way the world tears us all down and apart. She's like a Disney fairy godmother who makes your dreams come true. For instance, when I asked one of her students, Shefali Milzarek Desai, who currently runs the U of A Immigration Clinic, about the impact Tony had on her life, she described how Tony not only wrote the letter to get her a clerkship with the Arizona Supreme Court and a job at the top law firm, but when family circumstances forced her to leave her private law firm, Tony helped her find her way back to her dream career as a law professor. She described how Tony was able to look past Shefali's own self-doubts about whether the legal profession was right for a brown person and a stay-at-home mom, and helped her find her academic voice by co-authoring a white paper on Tucson being a sanctuary city. And more importantly, Tony showed Shefali that the law can be something besides an ego competition. It can be used for the good. Last adjective, role model. When I think of a role model, I don't think of someone you simply look up to, although I do look up to Tony. Tony has the academic accolades of a superstar. What I think is important about Tony as a role model, though, is that she shows you that a good life is possible. She's able to balance being smart and kind, sensitive and fierce, a doer and a thinker. And she does all this while laughing and making other people laugh. I'm not allowed to say that, never mind. Tony and Jerry throw magical parties that cause the best laughter. She created a space of tantalizing intellectual conversations in the enrichment program and conversation about what needs to be done politically with the McCormick Society. She's helped us have more civil discourse in the National Civility Institute and how to build resiliency by working with the Howery Indigenous Resilience STEM Center. And she created, for me, with me, a supportive pandemic pod that could cheer the U of A's women's basketball teams and drink Negronis during the crazy pandemic. If, if Tony had a superpower, it would be finding and bringing out the best in others. Tony has made the law school, the U of A, Tucson, and Arizona a better community. So I want to give my dear, dear friend a very heartfelt thank you.
Boy, listening to that, to all these stories, don't you wish you knew people? Oh, you do know people like this. Pretty amazing, isn't it? Let's give them all another hand. So I'm going to move to the next phase of our program, which is the unveiling of the benches and the introductions of our honorees. So as we gather in this plaza to unveil 4 new benches, we're continuing to build upon the rich history of women's accomplishments and lives in Arizona and throughout the world. And it strikes me that there are so many common threads that these women share. Their brilliance and their humility, their great gifts and their willingness to give to others. And so it seems so very appropriate to honor them through the Women's Plaza, because that's very often qualities that women share. So we're set in a garden walkway in the heart of the University of Arizona campus, where the names of honorees are inscribed on sweeping arches, detailed benches, handmade tiles, and wide brick paths. Honoree life stories and photos are collected on the Plaza's website. And we know that today's honorees will inspire and continue that intricate tapestry of life. Each honoree designed their benches working with the department coordinator. They are as individual and expressive as the honorees themselves. I will ask the department representatives to come up one by one to introduce the honoree with their remarks. They will then invite the honoree up to the podium for the bench unveiling, and we will invite each honoree to share with us their thoughts. So first, I'd like to introduce now Dr. Joan Curry, Associate Department Head, Environmental Sciences.
All right. Hello. It is my great pleasure and honor to introduce Dr. Carletta Chief. After you've heard Nikki's speech, I've only got a couple minutes though, so I'll say a few things about her. I'm really excited to be part of this celebration for all of the women who are here. It's just really a wonderful thing. Carletta joined our faculty in 2011, Environmental Science, College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. And she is an associate professor and extension specialist. I have reason to believe that she will receive another promotion in the not too distant future. Coming up, Dr. Chief grew up on the Navajo Nation without running water and electricity, as you've heard, and she was a first-generation college student. She attended Stanford and got her bachelor's and master's in civil and environmental engineering. Came back to the University of Arizona and got her PhD in hydrology and water resources in 2007. Did a postdoctoral fellowship at Desert Research Institute, and then came back and joined the faculty here. We were so lucky in 2011. So in that short time, since 2011, she has built an exemplary program in research, extension, outreach, community building, student mentoring, and advocacy. All of those things. She's a role model for countless Native American students and colleagues, and she is a role model for me. I'm so glad I got chosen to do this. With her training and experience, she seeks to reduce the disparities for Native Americans in clean drinking water access, environmental pollution, and climate change impacts. She uses community-driven, indigenous-centered water outreach programs based in hydrologic and scientific tools, training and science translation. She has collaborated to secure over $40 million in funding and has driven over 100,000 miles to implement these programs with tribes in the state of Arizona. She has directed the Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe Climate Adaptation and Traditional Knowledge Project, as well as working with the Gold King Mine Spill Dene Exposure Project. She played a key role in working with the Native nations after the Gold King mine spill in 2015, which Nikki talked about. And she has also trained 38 students in the NSF Indigenous Food, Energy, Water Security, and Sovereignty program, known as IndigiFuse. She has received numerous awards and accolades. She has been named an American Geophysical Union Ambassador and Fellow. She received the Tribal Resilience Leadership Award from the HARI program. And she was, as Nikki said, just recently awarded the University Distinguished Outreach Faculty title, which is really a big deal. And most recently, she has been named the director of the Indigenous Resilience Center here at the U of A. What a wonderful honor. The center will bring together experts across the university, prioritizing collaboration with tribal leaders and Native nations with the important idea that Native nations drive the research questions based on their priorities and longstanding local knowledge. Makes sense, doesn't it? I'm very proud to know you, and I'm very happy to be with you here today to unveil this bench in your honor. What do I do now? So we're gonna go do it? Okay, all right.
Hello everybody. Shay Torachini Shlendo Tohana Bashishin as a Sane Dashicheto. Yay, the net Tachine Dashanala Akota Sanishla. I'm so honored to be here today and just really honored to be honored in this way and for the wonderful words that my student Nikki shared, as well as Department Chair, Associate Dr. Curry, and everybody here. I am definitely a loss for words and just unexpected to be in this place. And I just want to thank everybody here. It's really gratifying to be here at the University of Arizona, where I'm able to do the type of work that I do that's close to my heart and drives me every day to work with my team of faculty, staff, and students. And especially many thanks to the visionary leaders here at the University of Arizona who made the Women's Plaza possible. It's a tremendous honor to be recognized here. I'm indebted and thankful to the Gender and Women's Studies for making a space for women to be recognized. I stand on the shoulders of all the women before me, around me, in history, in my tribe, in my family, and in academia. In my family, I stand on the shoulders of Asa Torachini, or Lady Bitterwater, who was my maternal great-great-grandmother, who through her weaving survived the internment camp at Box Redondo during the Long Walk by weaving beautiful Navajo rugs and exchanging it for food. Because of Lady Bitterwater, my family survived that horrible time during the Long Walk. I stand on the shoulders of my 96-year-old grandmother who sits here today, who made the 400-mile, 7-hour trip from Black Mesa to celebrate this momentous occasion with us today. Shanala Hehet, Kwaanin Yahagi, I see Ba Hehenson. Ayon Shanale. Then Benina Kwa, Hota the Otagi, but Ziligi Nashnesto. Shijayan Tito, Nashin Tidigi, Do Shatsotazino Benina Kwa, Najonago Ishla, Ebenina, Sha Hodza. As a young child, my grandmother, my great grandmothers, they told me stories and gave me values that I carry today. I wrote about her stories when I was in high school, applying for college to the entrance exam. And to her, I indebted to getting into Stanford as a first-generation college student by sharing her stories. In my Diné or Navajo culture, we are matrilineal or matriarchal society. Our clans come through our mothers. And for me, my mom is Bitterwater. And they taught me, my mom and my grandmothers, they taught me who I am as a Navajo woman. They taught me my language, my culture, how to pray, how to have faith. And especially to my mom, who couldn't be here today due to medical reasons, but she's always been there for me. She's my role model. She's a woman of God, strong in her faith, and a dedicated mom and wife. She went to Chamawa Indian School until 9th grade, and then she was arranged in marriage to my father, who she met the day that she got married. And my mom made me who I am today. I watched her strength and her commitment to our family. And growing up, we lived in a small trailer with us 5 kids without electricity, running water. And during the winter months, my mom would pile up about 5 blankets on top of us to keep us warm. But my mom and my dad, they taught me to work hard, pray, study, and strive for my goals, and never let anyone tell me I was less than that or I couldn't do it because I was Navajo. I also stand on the shoulders of Navajo women leaders. For example, the first female Navajo leader, Annie Dodge Wanika, who in the 1970s was a public health activist. She was born in 1910 in a traditional hogan. And at 8 years old, while in boarding school, the influenza epidemic spread across the Navajo Nation, and thousands of Navajos, including her classmates, died of the flu. While nursing her relatives back to health, Annie Wanika committed herself to improving health and sanitation on the Navajo Nation. Annie Wanika was the second woman elected to the Navajo Council in 1951. I'm inspired by her motto of "I'll go and do more," which sounds really similar to Tony's motto. And those mottos drive me in my work in addressing environmental injustice in Native American communities. I also stand on the shoulders of women on this campus, including Dr. Maria Teresa, Diana Liverman, Tony Massara, Sally Martin, Sharon Megdal, Paloma Beamer, and many, many females around the campus who believed in my vision for food, energy, and water securities in tribal communities. Also, other colleagues of mine like Janie Ingram, Stephanie Carroll, Raina Mayer, Kathy Jacobs, and many more who I didn't mention. But as a first-generation college student and faculty, receiving mentoring is so important and valuable to me. As the only person in my family who is in academia and one of few Indigenous faculty in STEM, I treasure the mentoring and advice I get from my colleagues. Diana Liverman was actually one of the individuals that brought me here to the University of Arizona to make it possible to do my work. Dr. Maria Teresa Velez mentored me here on campus as well, helping me to get my PhD. And Dr. Sharon Megdal and Dr. Raina Mayer included me in their research collaborations early on that were foundation to where I am today in my position as professor. Also want to thank Dr. Paloma Beamer, who gave me most of the best and most detailed advice that I needed on how to navigate the details of the promotion tenure process, many of which I didn't know and likely was assumed that I knew. Dr. Beamer continues to be a mentor of mine and a mentor that I truly admire. I appreciate all the mentorship and career advice that I've received from all of these women whose shoulders I stand on. I don't do this work alone. Community-driven environmental research with Native Nation occurs as a team effort. with my community partners, faculty, staff, students who work alongside me. My commitment to community comes through my passion to give back to Indigenous communities. And like my grandmother always said, "Shayajin Handita," which means my child, come back to me after you have received your education. I represent my family and my ancestors through my 4 clans as Bitterwater, Near the Water, Mini Goats, and Red Running into the Water. And it's upon their shoulders and the Creator's blessings to be able to be in this place to do the work that I'm doing. But I also remember the challenges that Indigenous communities face and what they face today. So I'm hugely grateful to be able to turn around and give back to those communities. I also want to thank my husband, Johnny Walker, and my children, my brothers and sisters, for their unwavering support in my career, because I couldn't do it without them. So the women in my history and my life, with a foundation of faith and prayer, have made my academic journey, my journey back to my people possible. So now, as a professor, wife, and a mother, I will continue to strive to give back to future generations of women. And I'm so honored that I can be a part of this plaza in that way, and hope that as Native American women and other women pass through this plaza, they'll not only see this bench, but they'll also see the Native American woman arch that is here, and other Native individuals that have been honored, and be inspired, and also work towards giving back to our communities. So with that, I really appreciate this time, and thank you so very much. Ahiahet.
All right, next we'll hear from Andrew Cromrie, who will speak about, he's the Chief Academic Officer for the Arizona Board of Regents, among many other roles he's held in the past, and he will unveil the bench for Diana Liverman.
Thank you, Mary. And wow, what an afternoon with so many phenomenal people being honored here. Just a couple of extra words about Diana before we invite her up to see her plaque on the bench here. And some professional, some personal. So Diana basically pioneered the human dimensions of global change, as Margaret mentioned earlier. And when I was in graduate school and an impressionable import from overseas, and there was this other professor who also had a weird accent, everything that she mentioned at the time, this was at Penn State, to all the graduate students was either about the human dimensions of global change or about her other passion at the time, and something that's come to be really just a part of the lexicon, which is how she connected the concept of vulnerability and later on adaptation to climate change. And Diana has been passionate about environmental change and climate change her whole career. And it's always been this constant accompaniment to everything she's done is her passion, not only for the environment, but the people who live in that environment. Other things Diana has achieved. Diana is a leader in so many areas, but I think one that is underestimated is how Diana has brought all the many physical scientists, and climate change is an area that is dominated by physical scientists, to appreciate and rely on the social sciences. To be perfectly honest, when Diana got going in her area, the social sciences were looked down upon and dismissed by the physical scientists. And I won't say single-handedly because it wasn't single-handedly, but there was a small but mighty cadre of social scientists, many of them women, who by force of their arguments, and by sheer sort of scholarly excellence and political savvy, managed to persuade the physical scientists that, in fact, probably a lot of what they were working on was secondary, and really the real challenges in climate change were about the challenges that society faced. And that is true to this day. And we would not have much of what we see in climate reports, like the one that just came out a few days ago, and there's another one coming later on this year. We wouldn't have those kind of reports that talk about the impacts and what we can do about climate change if it wasn't for Diana and her colleagues at the time. As you know, Diana has many international awards that she's won. I won't run down all of them, but I will mention, as Margaret did, the National Academy and the AAAS, but one other that I think really made a personal impact on Diana. I remember when she received it, which was she received the Founders Medal from the Royal Geographical Society. And of course, she's a Brit, at least some of the time. And the Royal Geographical Society, you have to understand, this is a group of, it was formed by a group of, I think, 18th and 19th century old white guys. And these were the names you read about in the history books, the famous explorers, the famous colonial explorers, actually. There's a litany of names there, but they also include in more modern days, people like David Attenborough, E.O. Wilson, and the list goes on. They're just incredible. I think maybe even Darwin's on the list. I'm trying to remember, but that is serious company to be part of. But I think it was particularly noteworthy for Diana, because if I recall correctly, your dad was still alive then. Having grown up in Africa, and her dad having been involved in development, and knowing all those characters in a previous phase of history, I think that was a particularly heartwarming award to get that medal. So many achievements. I'll stop there, but I also want to go on to mention just one more thing, partly personal, which is that, as you heard, Diana is a mentor of many, as are all of the folks being on it today, myself included. Diana was on my PhD committee. I think one of the many things I learned from Diana, other than the science and social science that I learned from her, was the absolutely critical value of connecting and networking. And it's something of an axiom in our discipline that Diana may be the most networked individual out there. And if you know someone in the discipline, or you don't know someone in the discipline, or even in a neighboring discipline, or even frankly in a field completely out of your knowledge, often if you ask Diana, she'll say, oh, I know so-and-so, or I know someone who knows so-and-so, I'll put you together. And it is, I don't know that Diana realizes quite how uncanny that is. We tease her all the time about this, but her ability to connect other people and to have the sort of the whole tide rise up is something quite amazing. So with that, I just wanted to also thank Diana personally for her mentorship of me. I certainly couldn't have done half the things I've tried without her egging me on and giving me a little shove from the background. And sometimes when I needed it, dressing me down for whatever I did. That's what a good mentor does. And of course, we've become lifelong friends as well. So Diana, thank you very much for that. And now let's get your plaque unveiled.
So thank you very much. Thank you, long-standing friends and new friends, for coming. I want to thank the Howry program, that I'm very proud to have been part of its formation, and I'm just so impressed by what you're doing and Tony's leadership now. I want to thank my College of Social and Behavioral Sciences and my friend and Dean John Paul Jones. I want to thank my amazing colleagues in the School of Geography, Development and environment. I wasn't physically in the department for a lot of my career at the University of Arizona, which was in Latin American Studies, and then in the Institute of the Environment. But I've always loved geography. I'm a geographer at heart, and it's a wonderful department to be part of. I also want to thank my colleagues from the Institute of Environment, now IRES, right, Margaret? They were wonderful to work with. And I want to thank my family, my parents, John and Peggy, my brother David, who passed away just recently, and I miss very, very much. But I have a larger family that's always been supportive wherever I was in the world. Some of you have already talked about my connections to the other honorees. Sally rented me her apartment when she was off for the summer back in 1981, I think, or two. So we've been friends for 40 years. Tony, I think, was my mentor when I was acting dean back in like 2001. And is an amazing mentor, and I've enjoyed working with her on the Howry program. Carletta mentioned my role in bringing her here, and I am so proud of you and what you've done. I think it was just wonderful that we brought you to the University of Arizona. And I want to thank Agnese Howry for the amazing things that she did for the University of Arizona when she was alive, and now through Mary, through the Howry program. I do actually want to give a shout out to Mackenzie Meitner and Anna Tello, who worked with me to design my very busy bench. And I'm going to just explain why the bench looks the way it does, because not everybody will see what's on there and understand it. So when you come over and look, I mentioned the climate stripes, and you probably have seen this icon where the stripes go from blue to red, reflecting the increasing temperature. And one of the sad things, in a sense, about my career is that we've been screaming that climate change was happening and we had to do something about it and we had to get off fossil fuels for 40 years, and we are still not on track to solve the problem. We do know what we need to do, and I do hope that sometime in the next decade, I will see us turn the curve so that we can reduce the risks of global warming and the devastation that it is wreaking on poor countries and poor communities. Other things, there's a bunch of desert critters. I love Santa Teresa Tile Works, and I've always liked their little coyotes and their hummingbirds. And I love wildlife, with the exception of pack rats. And I'm really glad that there is no pack rat on my bench, because they've destroyed my car twice in the last month. So they keep getting back in there and building nests. But I think everything else is there. There is a small Australian Shepherd, which is my dog of choice. Darwin, then Carson, and now Leo have been my companions, and Leo especially during the pandemic. And I have quotes from, there were so many people who I admire and who've inspired me, and I was only able to pick three. One is from Mary Robinson, who the Howry program, we worked to bring her here. The quote from Mary Robinson reflects my commitment to women and to climate justice. It says, "Women and girls can lead on climate justice, and that leadership is so deeply needed." The second is from Nelson Mandela. And I actually think, Andrew, Yumi and Lee watched Mandela be released from jail way back then, must have been in the early 1990s. And I remember weeping to see that change. And with Nelson Mandela, I've used education as the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world.
And then finally, Rachel Carson, who I helped found a program to train graduate students in environmental communication here at the University of Arizona. And I'm really proud of the Carson Fellows. They're amazing. And there were many quotes from Rachel Carson. Those who contemplate the beauty of the earth find reserves of strength, and I certainly do. And finally, I really want to honor all of my graduate students and my undergraduate students, but graduate students have really been both the bane of my life and the joy of my life. And I have learned so much from the many students that I've worked with. So with that, I'd just like to thank everyone for the honor. And oh, I did want to say, when I got that medal at the Royal Geographical Society, I had to give a little talk, and Michael Palin gave it to me, which was great. But I did talk about how colonialism had created climate vulnerability. So I tried to counteract some of the other names that really didn't always do the best for the poor of the world. So thank you very much.
And Andrew Comrie will now present for Sally Marsden.
Thanks again, Mary. So Sally, I've introduced Adina many times. I don't get as many chances to introduce Sally, so this is fun. So I'm going to talk about some things other than the school gardens, although that is an amazing achievement, and Moses mentioned them strongly earlier, and I'll come back to them in a second. But I also want to talk about Sally the scholar and Sally the colleague and friend. Like Diana, Sally is really an academic rock star that people, universities are such amazing places, because just in this audience, I mean, Tony, I mean, my gosh, I can remember when I was a junior dean and we all looked up to Tony, who is, by the way, you'll discover in a second, an orator of the first degree. And that's saying something for a law professor, by the way. And Carletta, who's just amazing. I worked with Maria Teresa when she would always mention, we have got to get Carletta through. So it's just some phenomenal people here. But I think for Sally, the thing I want to mention is really some of the scholarship that she's really put our department on the map for, and the way in which she did it. You'll see through the topics. So I think we can sort of put Sally's work maybe in 4 areas. One is she's been really interested research-wise, and I'm going to murder this because I'm not even a card-carrying social theorist at all. So this will be translated by a natural scientist. But public space and citizenship, particularly everyday practices on the street, in your neighborhood, even at home. And Sally has been interested in that for a long time in various permutations of it. Back when things like pride parades were an anomaly and unusual, Sally was studying them and showing how they fit into what we thought of as public spaces, not just formal spaces like we're sitting in, but the way all space is used by the public. A related area that she worked on was urban geography, about the geography of the city, and the role that social difference plays in the city. And it might be obvious now in the politics of today, when differences have more played up than they perhaps were 20, 30 years ago. But what the critical role of gender or race and ethnicity or religion, ethnic background, all kinds of other things that make up the life of the city. And Sally has an extensive amount of scholarship on how you can't conceive of cities without those particular attributes. Sally is also a feminist scholar in many ways, and she worked on a whole set of papers that value social reproduction, which is to say, how does society replicate itself? And one of her focuses was on unpaid and family-oriented work, not just the work of mothers, but the work of women in general, that in many ways still goes unseen today. And she contributed a lot of valuable social theory on how that plays out in a geographic context. But I think the most important, and I saved the fourth one for the last year, the best one, I think, is Sally's work on rethinking scale. Now, for those of you who are not geographers, scale is a big deal, a really, really big deal. Like it's time for historians. It's sort of fundamental to geography. And Sally's work in this area was nothing short of completely and utterly groundbreaking. She made this fundamental contribution to geography and frankly to all the social sciences and the whole field of social theory by actually critiquing our use of scale and how basically how simple and unidimensional it was. And in fact, in one paper with a few colleagues, called for the complete elimination of scale as a concept in geography. I think a lot of people realized when those papers came out, the sheer import of what she'd contributed. So for comparison, Sally has in our discipline and in neighboring parts of social disciplines done something like overthrowing an entire theory in physics or in law, overturning a legal principle. This was groundbreaking change to say that basically scale is BS. And you called it. And she deserves way more recognition than she's got for doing that. Part of her getting a Regents professorship was for that work and some of the other things I talked about. So big kudos to Sally for that huge contribution that should be better known. Then there's all the other stuff that perhaps is more visible to those outside the narrow academic area. And of course, the spectacular success of the Community and School Garden program. If you now understand her work on the role of different people in the city and in the way that space is structured, you can now see where working with schools and community helps shape the nature of how space is used and utilized in a way that is also really progressive. And the School Garden program is just a sort of what does I want to do? It's sort of a crystallization of everything that Sally does in that area. Finally, Sally is also a mentor. When I joined the department 30 years ago, this fall, Sally was the only woman professor, and yet was also the most unflappable, the coolest in every sense of the word, still is, by the way, and just sheer outright professional and also nice person that one could imagine to have as a senior colleague giving you advice, never too serious, and yet really genuine and authentic at the same time. And because of that, she has mentored many, many students and faculty members over the years, for which she has also roundly been recognized, today being part of that. So, so Sally, congratulations on the recognition. And it was a pleasure to introduce your bench unveiling.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. First, I want to acknowledge the three amazing women who are also being honored today. I am so proud to be up here with you. And also to all those other women who have been memorialized in the Women's Plaza of Honor. It is a singular honor to be put into this place for my nieces to come and visit and other people in my families to see and other students, etc., who come after me. I thought I'd use my time to tell a kind of how we built this story. This being the Community and School Garden program, for which I feel I'm being honored today for my community commitments. And we being all the folks who have done and are doing the building. It all started with two people, a teacher, me, and an undergraduate student, Morgan Apicella. Morgan wanted to be given independent study credit to support a teacher who had a garden at a special TUSD high school. And so it began. His enthusiasm for school gardens spread, and soon other students wanted to participate in a similar experience. Today, we train 60 U of A student interns each semester to assist in garden-based learning in TUSD Title I schools. The commitment to the TUSD community those student interns have shown has been a deep source of motivation for me. But getting from the class to the program and then to where we are today involves so many others whose energy and commitment were essential to the success. There is the incomparable Moses Thompson, then a school counselor at Monzo Elementary, who convinced me to send interns to Monzo, which, as he said, several months later faced closure by TUSD governing board. This thing is not in a good spot. Okay. I'm too tall. Everyone says that. That is not original. Where several months later, the TUSD governing board voted to close them or attempted to close them. And of course, as so many of you know, Monzo survived and is thriving since that challenge. And Moses has become a singularly amazing partner in championing school gardens and guiding CSGP. Community and School Garden Program, that's the initials. Over the dozen years that CSGB has been in existence, external support for the program has come from so many quarters. For example, through the invitation of my dearly beloved Dean, John Paul Jones, a memorandum of understanding was signed with TUSD leadership for a jointly funded position for Moses, through which he would provide placement opportunities for U of A students with teachers, I can tell it's not really working perfectly, committed to garden-based learning at the same time that he would coordinate the growing school garden movement for the district. This year, nearly all of the CSGP positions will be jointly funded between the U of A and Tucson Unified School District, making us a national model for school garden support organizations in the US and in Europe. Okay, the UK, it's not really Europe, but no kidding. There are so many other great characters in the story and in the building of this program. The resistant food service director, who finally became one of our strongest supporters, the Arizona State Legislature, who eventually came to understand that school children should be able to enjoy the fruits and vegetables of their labor. The UA president, who committed early on a significant personal donation, that was President Sander. And group characters from the Desert Museum to Mission Garden to Native Seed Search, who helped us to learn new things. At the same time, we shared the knowledge of the things we were learning. There literally was a cast of maybe not thousands, but hundreds who acted in supporting roles for us. Among these are the scores of foundations and private donors who have believed in us and helped forward our work, many of them year after year, allowing us to grow at the same time that they fueled our drive and commitment. There is one, though, among these supporters I would like to single out, the Agnes Nelms Howey Program in Social and Environmental Justice. An early Howey small grant was followed by the prestigious Howey Challenge Grant, which helped us to develop a replicable model of a strong community-driven university community partnership. And now there's this bench, of course, sponsored by the Howey Program, and when you see it, it's pretty amazing. And saving the best for last, there are many awesome young people who have been or currently are members of the CSGP team. The dedication to social justice through school gardens of these extraordinary colleagues is a constant inspiration to me, and I mean that very sincerely. They're inventive, diligent, optimistic. We really need that now. who do the work that makes school garden-based learning happen in 60 schools across the 80 schools of TUSD. They, along with so many others, have made the CSGP what it is today. And so this bench is not about me, but about all of us. The impacts we can have when we join together for common cause. The goal of the CSGP is not only to support school gardens as vehicles for alternative learning, it is also about refusing to sit idly by as investment in K-12 public education dwindles. Our public schools and teachers are among the most precious community resources we possess. And so I wish to express my gratitude to all of you who have been part of building the CSGP through all you do to defend and nurture these resources. Thank you very much.
I'm not quite as tall. And last but not least, Dean Mark Miller will present the unveiling for Tony Massaro and remarks about Tony.
Thank you, Mary. On the occasion of a tribute to Tony Massaro, published in the Arizona Law Review, and noting a decade of leadership as the College of Law's 10th and first woman dean, two distinguished members of the very, very large Tony Massaro fan club, her longtime colleagues and mentors, former Provost George Davis and former UA President Peter Likens, had the following colloquy. Dr. Likens, George, how can we best express our appreciation to Tony Massaro in the tribute we've been invited to write together for the Arizona Law Review? Where will we ever begin? Provost Davis, I can express our shared opinion in very few words. We think Tony Massaro is the best dean on the planet. President Likens, well said. Although our friends don't expect such succinct prose from either of us. So perhaps we should elaborate. We can share our understanding of the qualities most important in a dean, beginning with integrity, intellect, courage, compassion, and creativity. They then spelled out each of those virtues. I'm going to follow Tony's advice and keep this short, but I do want to read their conclusion. There's another dimension of compassion that is essential. The kind of selflessness that permits highly capable people to find fulfillment, pride, and even joy in the accomplishments of others. This nurturing quality lies at the heart of any successful academic administrator, and it is beautifully exemplified in Tony Massaro. Dean Massaro's 10-year tenure spanned an era of dramatic changes and challenges as our assumptions about the American public university and American law schools were being redefined. On a more personal note, Tony is the dean who recruited me and my wife, Chris, to Arizona, and Tony was key to our decision to move here 18 years ago. Tony was and still is visionary in her commitment to scholarship, academic excellence, building a faculty of national renown, advancing the college's national and international reputation, renovating our physical environment to meet the needs of both students and scholars. As the Milton O'Reilly Chair in Constitutional Law, Regents Professor, Tony's brilliant scholarship continues to earn wide acclaim, especially in the areas of freedom of expression, equality, and substantive due process. She is also, as Andrew has already noted, one of the best and most natural speakers I have ever heard. An 8-time Professor of the Year, an 8-time Professor of the Year recipient. Wow. She fills the classroom at 8 a.m. She builds community through her generosity of spirit, her extraordinary accessibility. She and Jerry have been the counselor, community builder, literal host for generations of students, faculty, and staff, and consigliere, a word I chose quite intentionally, to deans before and after her tenure. Fortunately, she's still one of the most active members of our community. It is premature to account for all of her accomplishments. 2 minutes won't allow it. So today, Tony, many are here to celebrate, and I am cavilling about your path-breaking accomplishments. Grateful for your service, your talent, your determination, and your friendship. Congratulations on this honor.
No pressure.
I think I'm here for comic relief. Thank you, Mark. Thank you to my colleagues who made it here after a long day. All of them are long, aren't they now? They don't end, but I'm really grateful for making the time. In particular, I have to say, because she's been at everything important to me from the day I joined this faculty, Barbara Atwood. Thank you very much for everything that you've been to me and done for me. The College of Law is graced now with a truly visionary dean. He's not afraid to make omelets, that is, crack the eggs, rearrange the furniture. It's scary to people like me at times, but we backed him, and we are extremely grateful to have somebody of Mark's dedication, interest in the greater good, and willingness to think out. Auntie M. Oh, I'm just kidding. Seriously, we're very lucky. We're in good hands. And when you're not, you know it. You know it. So he's also got infinite patience, and he doesn't seem to have a temper, just like me. I want to thank you, Mary. Mary Greer was one of the presidents of the Law College Association when I was laboring in the field of being the dean of the law school. It's a big job. It's a team sport. And the Law College Association is absolutely essential to your ability to do anything meaningful. She's the first one that was willing to do this job longer than the normal term of office so that we get some programs on the ground running. She is somebody who embodies what this whole plaza is about, elevating voices of women, voices of others, caring about the world and the common good. So it is her vision that brings you here tonight. It was her vision in thinking of this kind of way of honoring these women in a creative way, in a way that emphasizes their stories. I also want to thank Nancy Peterson, who is the principal from the Howry program, who worked tirelessly to bring this to fruition, wanting very much to actualize the vision that Mary had. From the College of Law, Allie Bridges and Shelley Denman. You know what it's like when you're walking along in your job and you're doing everything humanly possible and someone says, let's do this too, right? And they did, and every piece of it was lovingly taken care of, and they brought me along bucking, screaming, worried about the whole thing, and I really thank them. All right, Susie. See, that's why she was my COVID pod buddy and her parental unit and daughter, not her parental unit. Her daughter, Sophie, refers to her parents as parental units, or I do. This family sat a distant way down at the end of the table with us throughout COVID and kept me from leaping into the fireplace that we have in our front yard. I have 4 words for you, Susie, right? Non-boring. This is all inside baseball. Brilliant. That one you can all appreciate. Creative, and something you won't understand. Cello. It's my favorite instrument because it can play the deep notes. It can play the sad notes. It can play lively notes. I'm just not interested in people who don't play all the notes. And I noted the minute I met this woman that we were going to be able to go wide, go deep, and laugh our rumps off all the way. And today I have 4 more words for our Susie Dovey. Happy birthday, dear Susie. It's her birthday today. Now, Carletta, Diana, and Sally. As I said to Susie, and the most important person in my life, my partner, many times in relation to this event, this is insane.
This is utterly insane for me to be in the same page, let alone in the same program that honors these three women. One of my gifts is I know who I'm not, right? One of my gifts is I know when I'm in the presence of greatness and people who want to do something better for the world. Your work and your very beings are testimony to the highest ethics of a university community that seeks to actually fulfill its commitment to the public good. And U Arizona does more than we can tell our story, because one thing we're not great at is telling our story in the fullest tones that we can. Thank you to the organizers of this event for seeing them, for seeing how they matter, right? Not just in conventional ways or resume ways. Darwin, really? That was just unfair. But all the other ways that really make a community. You're shining examples of how best to live for a better world while caring for your family and your friends and honoring your own lives too. But in particular, Carletta. I want to add a few more words about Carletta. Carletta, you have literally changed my life. In the early and most harrowing days of COVID, the HARI program sought to apply its time and resources to assisting the Navajo Nation mission to bring transitional water sites to off-grid homes across the sprawling nation. Carletta led our team. HARI was honored to join. Watching you in action, Carletta is always in action. Ways seen, not seen, that you almost can't comprehend. Modeled for me what a meaningful and impactful connection between academic life and the world we exist to serve can be at its most powerful. I've been moved many times. I'm Italian, of course, I moved daily. Sun, whoa, look, right? Evening, Negroni, yes, right. But I've never been that moved by a colleague or more in need of that kind of professional inspiration than when you came along. COVID was overwhelming. I am not, if you'd noticed, a spring chicken. But instead of cratering rather in the face of it, I found myself working harder than ever before, which some people think this isn't wouldn't be possible. It's just because I'm so inefficient, right? I have to work all the time to get anything done. I thought, okay, I can't do more. I can't do more. I thought, you just be quiet. Look at Carletta. Look at, if Carletta can carry on, then I'm going to have to. And you did more than carry on. You co-formed along with the amazing and inspiring Kathy Jacobs and Jim Beiser. The work that was done in the midst of all of this is hard to even convey. And created the new Aries HARI Indigenous Resilience Center that's devoted to tribal resilience. It was Carletta's dream. You became its director, like you needed a new job, right? You're shaping its future, premised on respectful tribal engagement. You've attracted to U Arizona already amazing new colleagues that you're all going to be uplifted by who work in the Indigenous resilience space. No small part of why they're coming is the center, sure, but without her leadership, without Carletta's essence and the work that she's always performed at the level that she's performed at, it would not have happened, nor could it have happened without the team. There was just this kismet of putting together Kathy Jacobs, Jim Beiser, and Carletta Chief. Me, I'm just there for color, humor, and Negronis. All right. That you did not, in the midst of the pandemic, pause or lower your sights or retreat. No, you doubled down on hope, on action, on your lifelong and soul deep commitment to people, especially to the people from whom you come. You again answered the call that inspires your work. How could I not follow? Meeting you and your beautiful family. We're here with her today, Johnny and the kids. Very nice to meet you, the grandmother, the extended family that inspire her and hold her up, right? Watching how brilliantly and steadfastly Carletta navigates the shoals, that illuminated for me a path through the thicket. And that's what I learned. I'll be concise. Keep moving forward. Thank you, Carletta, for being a beacon for so many, including me, especially now. You made it worth it. I have almost no tread left on the tire, so I just went and got new tires. Thank you, Carletta, Sally, Diana, for making us all so proud to work here, to be part of it, right? You're the best of us. Thank you.
All right, we're going to wrap this up. You may have noticed that I skipped over some remarks by Moses Thompson. And so we are putting them at the end, which I think is appropriate because he's going to speak a little bit more about the Community and School Garden Project. And the theme of this event is weaving, but it's also, we have a little gift for you to take when you leave, which includes a packet of seeds. And part of the theme of this event is the idea of planting the seeds for the future. And we hope you will take that gift and plant the seeds as our 4 honorees have done. We hope you will take a moment to participate in the community weaving project. I'm putting in a plug. Please take pity on us. No, take pity on me and do one of the little weavings because we want these incredible women to have something to remember this event by other than the benches, which they can't take home. They can take home. You may have seen us handing them these little saguaro cacti, which were a portable version of a memento of the bench. But I'm going to let Moses Thompson finish us off after I give a special thanks to artist Michelle Sosi, who allowed us to use her artwork for the program. She's a Navajo artist whose work I think is just incredibly beautiful. I want to thank Anna Maria Lourdash, who from the School of Music, who provided the music at the beginning and will give us some music at the end. If we can just give her a little applause. And I want to thank the special efforts of our master weavers, Nancy Peterson and Ashley Oliveras, who worked long and hard to put this event together for us. So unfortunately, Nancy couldn't be here, but Ashley is here, and I know that they really put their hearts into this event. And with that, I will let Moses close us out.
All right. As I think about the women being honored here today, I think it's only fitting that the Agnes Nelms Howry program is co-hosting the event. Back in early 2015, shortly after Mrs. Howry's passing, I was invited to collect Mrs. Howry's gardening tools to use for our school gardening program. And Lydia Bruning went up there with me, who's here today, which was a great surprise. Mrs. Howry was no lightweight gardener. She had a huge spread of very legitimate tools: hard rakes, spades, digging bars, pruners, loppers, and live traps. Those tools are still used today in our network of school gardens. And just like Mrs. Howry's tools, the women honored here today have equipped a generation to carry on their good work. Through their own groundbreaking work and mentorship, they've ignited a wildfire of good work that can't be contained. And they're far from finished. Just like that inappropriate cold call to Sally back in 2012, we keep Sally working full-time into her retirement. Sorry. One of my colleagues here with us today, Stacy Evans, was telling me how special this place, the Women's Plaza, was to her as a student that was seeking inspiration. And today, this special place becomes even more special with the additions of Drs. Sally Marston, Diana Liverman, Carletta Chief, and Tony Massaro. So thank you.
All right. Thank you all for being here. Please feel welcome to congratulate our honorees and mix and mingle. And please don't forget to do your weaving. Thank you all for being here.